We got a movie so lost that even the director can't find it. And then we have a director who seemingly got lost himself. I think horror, perhaps more so than other genres, is susceptible to having interesting works go missing. Perhaps it's the DIY spirit that inhabits the genre. Perhaps it's the fact that it has such a niche audience. But as a horror fan, I think it's interesting to take a look at the works that have vanished throughout the years. So for this first episode of my new Lost Media series, I want to take a look at some pieces of horror lost media, including 2 bygone Freddy Krueger projects and a lost zombie film that even the director can't find. And remember, if you have a lost media case you'd like me to take a look at, send it over to whanglostmedia@gmail.com. This video was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, the turn-based RPG with over 600 champions. Today I'm going to talk about Sylvania, the Guardian of the Spirit Keep. As a boss battle, Sylvania is all about healing. She heals up to half her health every time she gets a turn, and she also deals bonus damage based on how much HP she has left. However, if you have 1 or 2 champions that can keep a healing reduction debuff on her, then you've got her number. The only problem is that she can put up a block debuffs buff, so be sure to also bring someone who can remove enemy buffs. That's basically all there is to it. This month, Raids just released a huge new Doom Tower update. There are 2 huge new bosses to take on, Astronix the Dark Fae and Bommel the Dreadhorn, along with new enemy balance on tower floors, new secret rooms to discover, and most importantly, new artifact sets to win. That's not enough, the whole month is packed with awesome events and tournaments, including one very special event with a brand new feature, Super Raids. Super Raids let you double up your rewards from hitting dungeons and massively speed up your progress. This is amazing for new players, and if there's ever a time to start playing, it's now, because you don't want to miss this. If you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in my description or scan my QR code, and you'll get an epic hero, Chinoru, who does amazing in the Doom Tower, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Once you're in, you can find me in game under the name Whang, and if you're fast, you can join my clan. And it's that easy, just click the link in my description and I'll see you in the game. The first story for this episode was sent to me by David Thiel earlier this year. It's a lost zombie mockumentary entitled Dead End that was made in 1985. Not to be confused with Dead End from 2003 or Dead End from 1937 or any of the several other projects with that same name. Written by, directed by, and starring Emerson Bixby, who has since written several more movies and is probably best known for producing The Man from Earth, which was written by his father Jerome Bixby, as well as writing its sequel, The Man from Earth Holocene. The short blurb on IMDb describes it as: an unstable filmmaker risks his crew to shoot a documentary in a town overrun with flesh-eating zombies. There's of course no copy of this film that can be found online, so most of what we know about the film's plot can be pieced together through reviews and recollections of what happened. Many people compare it to the Blair Witch Project or George Romero's Diary of the Dead. In this movie, a film crew is making a documentary to investigate a UFO crash in a small town. The unwitting film crew then find themselves in the middle of a zombie apocalypse created by the UFO. It works by reactivating the dead people's nervous systems. And meanwhile, the military is there trying to cover up this zombie apocalypse. People who claim to have seen this film often comment on the excessive violence. And they mention scenes like one where a newborn baby crawls its way back into its mother, an overly long scene with a zombie dragging around a dead dog, and another scene that seems to come up a lot is a zombie mailman wandering around putting things into mailboxes such as dead birds. Another common theme that seems to come up is that this movie appears to contain an excess of references to other films. IMDb lists 86 in total, including a group of zombies dressed up for a showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, a mushroom person like in Matango, a dead body wearing ruby red shoes like Dorothy, and an Orson Welles zombie carrying around a sled. This movie has never seen an official release. Instead, it was supposedly viewed on bootleg VHS tapes, purchased from mail-in catalogs and circulating around various types of tape traders. Something that's not entirely unheard of for obscure horror movies of this era. Of course, though, there's a distinct possibility that this whole thing is a hoax. In 2012, Captain Obscurity, the owner of the horror blog To Obscurity and Beyond, covered this movie and noted a few oddities in the IMDb listing. For starters, until 2005, the IMDb listing for this film had a different name. It was then an adult film named Alien Lust. In 2006, the listing becomes dead end with all the cast, reviews, and trivia attached. That being said, Alien Lust is definitely a real movie, and it does have its own complete listing now. And you can go watch it on YouTube minus the sex scenes.
That are free to sample any and all earthly experiences, for we are superior beings and we need only the mental images.
He also noticed that Emerson Bixby's early writing credits, which include this movie, are all unknown movies that seem to share the same cast and crew. And these cast and crew members only ever appear in the other movies. These movies, which Captain Obscurity refers to as the Mystery 13. No trace of any of these people exists outside of them, with the exception, of course, for Emerson Bixby. That, of course, in and of itself isn't really proof of anything, but it does seem to indicate that there might be some kind of funny business going on at IMDb, which is notoriously exploitable, and as we've seen in some of the videos I've done in the past, is often filled to the brim with wrong information, because really, anyone can kind of put anything on there. Furthermore, the reported budget of $1,500 for this film seems a bit low, considering all of the different pieces we've heard about. As you saw in my recent video about Ozone, a cunning filmmaker can do a lot with a little bit of money, but there's limits on how much. But despite the evidence that exists that this could be a hoax, Emerson Bixby himself insists that this is a real movie. He's mentioned it in radio interviews in the past, and he even responded to a fan's email about this movie. Dead End was never released. I shot it on video with a budget of maybe $1,500. Made several copies to send to small-time distribution companies, and nothing ever happened. None of the distributors responded, and the 10 or so copies kept by myself and some of the crew are, to my knowledge, all that remains of Dead End. My copy was lost in '87, and I have lost contact with pretty much everyone involved. If Emerson's story is true, it would explain how this tape might have made its way into circulation. All it would take is for one of the distributors or one of the crew members to leak it, and then the tape traders have it. So perhaps this thing does exist, and in fact at one point Bixby was offering a $10,000 reward for anyone who could find it. But of course, there's also the chance that Bixby is just having fun at our expense. Or maybe even there's a mix of fact and fiction. Maybe this thing really was made, but a lot of the info online is embellished or made up. In any case, I think that if this one's real, it's extremely unlikely that we actually ever see it. The next one was sent to me by Grim Rejoice. He told me of an old Nightmare on Elm Street fan film entitled Son of 100 Maniacs. The year was 2013, and hardcore fans of the series still largely had a bad taste in their mouth from the 2010 remake. And a lot of times, passionate fan projects can do a much better job than the big studios. Directed by Andrew Daniels, this film was to be a prequel to the Nightmare on Elm Street series that showed us Freddy's life and ultimately his transformation into the killer we all know and love. It's a story that we've always been shown bits and pieces of, but never seen fully fleshed out. As the production was underway, we'd see small glimpses of what's to come on social media, several teaser images, the in-production Claw, and actor John William Watkins as Freddy. Look at that. You know, if this thing came out, you have so many women thirsty for Freddy. So a teaser trailer comes out, and it looks really good. We don't see all that much in it, but as far as I can tell, John William Watkins was shaping up to be a great Freddy. And this teaser trailer starts to get a ton of praise on horror websites. The hype is building, and then the official social media for the movie starts to tease a mystery client that will help bring the film to the next level. Some people theorize that this mystery client might have been Robert Englund himself, but we never exactly find out who it was. There's still posts about the film's progress every few weeks, but then one day, everything just disappears. There had been a lot of people following this project pretty closely, and then all of a sudden the YouTube videos are gone, and the Facebook page is gone. The Facebook page being where almost all of the content was. In 2017, Grim Rejoice, who had messaged me about this story, and who had been personally trying to figure out what happened to this movie for several years, caught up to Deandra Laser, who had been working as the film's publicist. He asked her if she knew what was going on with it, and here is her response. No, the director disappeared from the face of the earth. No good reason. Not even a reason, just poof. Which sucks, because that film would have been great. Perhaps the most information about what happened to this film can be garnered from Travis of Krueger, the designer of the claw used in the film. In the video he released in 2014, he speaks a bit about the production of the claw and the film itself, and he also talks about the production's end.
We decided what we can do and what we can't do, and for whatever reason he decided, you know, I don't even know what his decision was. All I know is that the production went quiet. So I extricated myself from it until he was ready to proceed. Never having fully, disbanded. But I never got an answer to that. So as far as I know, the production is dead.
He goes on to show behind the scenes footage of the claw and mentions that there was more never seen footage for the film, and that ultimately Andrew was hoping to use the footage that existed to drum up support and raise money to shoot the real movie. A relatively common practice in indie filmmaking, and one that, seeing how enthusiastic both the fans and the crew were, probably one that would have succeeded. Personally, as a fan of the series, I've always wanted to see a proper Freddy Krueger prequel made. Maybe we will see something like that someday, as even Robert Englund himself has expressed interest in doing this. But as for the unseen footage from this one, who knows if it'll ever see the light of day. The last story for this episode is another Freddy story. I was talking to Joe of VKM TV Studios, who's really knowledgeable about obscure media, and he mentioned something that I had never heard of, a Freddy Krueger reality show. As we were talking about it, it was clear there should be a video, so I invited him on to talk about it. So anyway, here's Joe.
Thanks, Whang. When it comes to lost media, some of the most frustrating kinds can be the ones that only seem to exist through a press junket or a press clipping. There is clear proof that this stuff has been made, but for some reason the company behind it has never released it. You can even say that trying to find this lost media can be a real nightmare. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Real Nightmares, hosted by Freddy Krueger. A reality show spin-off where Freddy Krueger would get a contestant to face their actual fear.
Going all over America, interviewing people about their nightmares, and the people we like, we bring them back to Hollywood and we drop them into their nightmare with special effects and everything.
And despite having 6 episodes filmed, this show has never seen the light of day. Almost like the master copies of the show have been locked away in a CBS boiler room. Coming off the box office success of Freddy vs. Jason, Robert Englund was again hired to play Freddy Krueger.
In the early 2000s, Bronze Age horror films were making a comeback. Teens were spending a lot of money on DVDs.
And the time was right for all of these franchises to get dug back up by the studio. And even though his last original film was almost 10 years old by this point, Freddy Krueger had never left the public zeitgeist.
He's turned into Freddy Krueger.
Fuck, get the stick out of your butt!
And when you're a horror icon, you can do whatever the hell you please. You want to challenge a wrestler? Go for it. You can go to an award show.
And you are...
Those who know me call me Pinhead.
Or even host it. Want to be the next Mark Summers? Fine. Here you go. Have your own game show aimed towards kids.
Welcome, creeps, to Secrets of the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House.
Great! With Fear Factor being a big hit show around this time period, CBS wanted their own version. Real Nightmares was set to have a 6-episode run, and each contestant was going to face their biggest fear.
If you're afraid of sharks, or you're afraid of the dark, or you're afraid of clowns, and then we stick you in a house with about 30 psycho actors in special effects clown makeup.
Afraid of bulls? Well, you're getting thrown in a maze with one. Are you afraid of clowns? Well, you're going to the circus. Don't like heights? Well, guess who's going bungee jumping?
One of our strongest segments featured a young lady who was petrified of clowns. We took this poor girl and locked her in a turn-of-the-century Victorian mansion near downtown Los Angeles, where she was hunted by a posse of psycho clowns. We hid those killer clowns all over the house in some pretty strange positions, the 2 freakiest being the one who was submerged in a blood-filled bathtub and the one inside a jerry-rigged medicine cabinet, waiting to lunge when she came looking for sleeping pills. Gotcha.
In 2017, we learned a little bit more about this show from contestant Annette Sharp. After the show, I was a wreck. Every time I saw a building with a fire escape, my hands shook and became cold and clammy. But there's an upside to this. My overall fear of heights diminished to the point that I was actually able to climb the open staircase at the college library. Before, I was never able to go up the stairs to the bookstore. It was a complete disaster. The day I walked into the store, stepped onto the first step, and walked to the top with ease, I knew it was worth it all. That goes to show you, if you let Freddy Krueger into your psyche, your quality of life will improve. CBS was looking for the broken kids.
You should see the kids we've got. We've got these sort of like damaged kids. They really are going to purge.
To be a broken kid who was fixed on TV, all you'd have to do is go to CBS.com and fill out the online application. Then, England would bring his victim, I would have worked on my phrasing. You do realize how Freddy Krueger became Freddy Krueger, right? He'd bring the victim to a prepared location where he or she will be asked to complete a challenge that will force them to confront their nightmare head on.
If it's a nightmare about falling, you can bet someone's going to be taking a plunge, Kroll said. You won't see all the rigging involved with the stunt. It's going to feel like a movie, not a garishly lit reality show.
The show's look was going to be created by Academy Award-winning visual effects artist Peter Curran, with films like, I don't know, Star Wars, RoboCop, Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters 2, and the cinematic classic Delta Farce.
And Larry the Cable Guy.
Let's get her done.
Delta Farce.
Honestly, the idea of scaring somebody but with a cinematic flair, that kind of sounds like Scare PewDiePie, which is another show with episodes rotting in a vault somewhere. One of the reasons why this show was even created was for Robert Englund to bide his time while they were attempting to clear the legal issues and get Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash made.
So does Freddy or Jason, does one of them die in the movie? Does one die at the end? Which one dies at the end?
They're fighting over the script right now, but the way it looks, it's going to be Freddy and Jason versus Ash, Bruce Campbell from the Evil Dead movies by Sam Spider-Man Raimi.
And if for some reason they couldn't get Ash from Evil Dead, they were also toying with the idea of getting Michael Myers.
We would do a period movie with Jamie Lee Curtis as a sort of Valium-addicted mom with a goth daughter, and they move away, and guess where they move? Springwood, guess who's there? Freddy and Jason, guess who comes to look for her? Michael Myers.
This show wasn't even going to be the first time that Robert Englund hosted as Freddy Krueger.
There's video coming up from ZZ Top.
Going as far back as the weekly horror anthology series, Freddy's Nightmares. But the show starts to lose a bit of its appeal when you realize that Freddy Krueger isn't going to be in makeup, which is more like the show he does now, True Terror.
I'm Robert Englund. Join me on a journey into the dark shadows of our nation's history.
While Englund won't be donning his Freddy face for real nightmares, Kroll said the actor is an absolutely compelling personality, even in his own skin. He could be as scary out of makeup as he is in makeup, Kroll said, adding that real nightmares won't always take itself too seriously. We want it to be a highly entertaining, terrifying, and always unpredictable, but there's also a sense of fun around the nightmare movies, and we want to keep that, he said.
Real Nightmares was set to be produced by New Line Television, with John Kroll as executive producer. John was coming off being a co-executive producer on The Amazing Race, and 33 episodes of Big Brother. And this show definitely didn't scare him off with working with famous horror icons, like Blade and Gordon Ramsay. The show was set to start airing in early 2005. Each episode supposedly was going to have 3 contestants all confronting a fear.
Kroll said Englund will serve as a dark shrink, a Vincent Price type who will analyze their dreams.
He'd come to your house, you'd tell him your biggest fear, and then he'd take you to go see some of his friends. According to this listing for IMDb, they were people like Jerry Buys as Psycho Madman, Ronald Walter Barker as Scary Hatchet Man,
and Jerry Mathers as the Beaver.
In the meantime, I'm busy at CBS right now hosting a new reality show, which I hope is going to go on in January.
2005 came and went with no real nightmares. It was quietly shelved, with some people speculating the reason was the legal risk of being sued for emotional distress by a contestant or something was too much for the studio to deal with. When pressed for an answer on why CBS passed on the show, Robert Englund played pretty coy, telling NightmareOnElmStreetFilms.com that CBS had enough hits. Have enough hits? You can never have enough hits.
In both television and film, networks and studios tend to stick with a concept or a format that's already proven to be a winner. Every new product is a gamble. That sometimes means that a more original project gets shelved.
Come on, CBS. Don't treat my man Freddy Krueger like he's some sort of Sharp-Hand Joe, some Nightmare Fetty, some Christian Okoye. What? You don't know about the Nigerian Nightmare? Do the right thing, Paramount. I want to see those 6 episodes.
Be sure to give Joe a sub. I put his info in the description. But anyway, that's all for now. If you liked this video, check out my video about the Lost Freddy Krueger video game. I'm out.
Welcome to my world, bitch!